Today's event has been put on with the Cradle Heath Action Forum, Friends of Haden Hill Estate and Cultural Services within Sandwell Council. So now I'd like to ask the Vice Chair of the Friends, our local historian, Mr Jack Beard, to say a few words.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And may I first of all offer my congratulations to you for turning up on such an inclement day. It really does make it good for us. We're standing here today in the grounds of Haden Hill Estate, the home of the Hadens, for over 800 years. There's been a property on this estate since the 13th century, and maybe even earlier. Throughout the whole of that time, the house was occupied by just one family, the Hadens. The last Haden, George Alfred, he built the Victorian gentleman's residence you can see here, and it's a irony, I suppose, really, that in the hall, over the period of time, probably hundreds of Hadens lived there, and yet in the Victorian house, there was only ever one resident, and that was George Alfred. He died in 1921, and the property was bought and presented to Rowley Regis Urban District Council, as it was then, in 1922, with just one proviso, that the grounds and the properties are available to the people of Old Hill and Cradle Heath for their enjoyment forever.
Anybody guess what kind of jug they think this is? What is it?
A wee jug?
It's a gusset pot, young lady, you are very well. Now, when some of the mistresses come into the house, as you've seen, some of the fine mistresses that are here today are dressed in very elaborate garments indeed. And of course, they find it very difficult to relieve themselves. So, a female mistress like myself would clamber underneath that mistress's skirts. I would like to see a lady in a skirt that I could demonstrate. You are all wearing breeches, I find that very strange. And you would clamber underneath the skirt where the mistress would clamp her thighs around the gusset part. She would relieve herself, tell you when it is time to go back inside and to remove it. Now, what do we do with the contents, do you think? You man there, what do we do with the contents? We keep it, of course, for certain things, chilblains. We can even use it to rinse your hair. If you are a blonde-haired lady or you have indeed reddish hair, it is a perfect bleach for the hair. It is also a very good mouthwash. Gets rid of ulcers in the mouth. There are so many fantastic properties with we. This, of course, is a man's piddle pot. It isn't called a piddle pot, but I see we have young masters and mistresses here, and hopefully the master would be able to hold that himself, unless some young master would care to hold it for him. But he can usually use one of those himself. Then, of course, you would give it a good old clean. Now, we are very modern in this house here, because we have something here called a clothes stool. I'm going to have to bend down there. Excuse me, young man. This is a clothes stool. It is one of the most modern things that you can get. In fact, I do believe this particular one has not yet been emptied. So let me see. Oh dear, look what the master has left for me.
Oh dear.
I'm wondering if we could have... Does anybody anybody fancy being a servant for a little while? Young man, would you care to strain out the solids from the liquid? As you all know, the liquid can be used and we strain away the solids. Young lady, put your hand in and take out the solids. Do we have any takers? Master, remove the solids.
No way.
I shall have to strain that out a little later on. Of course, King Henry himself had a closed stool and it was lined with red velvet, so it had a red velvet seat to make it comfortable on his posterior. And he had what is called the groom of the stool, which would be a very sought after job. Only a rich person could be the king's groom of the stool. Of course, the king would relieve himself on his closed stool, and then he would, of course, bend over while his groom of the stool wiped his bottom with a cloth. There then would be another servant waiting to take the cloth away and to clean it so it was ready for the next use. So you see, a very sought after job. Mistress, could you see yourself being a groom of the stool? Not quite, not quite. Never mind. Well, indeed, if you look around on my table, you'll also see that we have some leaves here. Now, what are these for? What do you think these would be used for? We're talking toilets here now, mistresses. So what could this be used for? To wipe your bottom. If you haven't got a groom of the stool and you do not want to use good linen cloth like this, then of course you would find a nice leaf to wipe your bottom, perhaps some moss if we have nice soft moss that is around at the time, and if not, even a smooth stone or pebble can be used in the wiping of your bottom. You would swipe it, you would clean it in some water, perhaps by a river or something, and use it until you were clean. You of course would use your left hand to wipe your bottom with, masters and mistresses, because of course your right hand is used to eat with. So you do not want to mix up the two. We do not really trust water, you see, so we do not clean our hands as often as we would like. Now here we have a choice of various different herbs, and here we have, does anybody know what this is? It is a mask. What kind of mask? Does anybody know? A plague mask. Of course it is. This fine doctor, he was very, very fine doctor indeed. Unfortunately, he died of the plague and I have rescued his mask. Now, we believe that disease travels in the air. If you can smell a disease, you will certainly catch that disease. So one way that we know that we will not catch disease, even if you were a plague doctor, is to wear a mask with a long enough beak so that you can fill it up with sweet smelling herbs and flowers. So as long as you cannot smell the plague, then you certainly cannot catch the plague. We have other urines here, of course. This is maiden's water, which is a little different from the master's water, I think that you would agree. Would you not? I shall smell that. Does the mistress ale in anything? Smells good, does it not? It is the colour of straw. That mistress is certainly drinking her small beer to small degrees. Now, do we have any questions, ladies and gentlemen, about anything on the table? Is there anything that anyone would like to know or ask? This is just a bowl, an empty bowl for various things. We may keep our dirty cloths in there, ready, I'm told, to take away. Keep our cloths in there, ready to take away. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day here at Haden Hall. Thank you.
on it. Good afternoon. Please follow the arrow.
And if you want to leave your pushchair,
I want to take towards the mountain.
You've got a van. I bet that's magic, isn't it? That is a copy of a medieval longbow. So that's the sort of thing that was shot on the battlefields of Agincourt and Crécy in Poitiers. And that will shoot an arrow over 300 yards. You imagine, at Agincourt there were 5,000 archers. If they all shot 12 arrows a minute, that would be 1,000 arrows every second leaving the bows. In 8 minutes, they'd shoot over 500,000 arrows. Now the French chroniclers of the day said the sky turned black with cloud of arrows. Not wave after wave, but a solid cloud until all the arrows had gone. The sort of arrows they were using for these swords, that's called a short bodkin, and that will go through plate armour like we've got over there. That made archers pretty unpopular. If they caught the archers, there was two things they could do. They could either string hook to a tree, or they could cut your 2 fingers off to stop you drawing the barrel. Now, before the Battle of Agincourt, the French king, who was Charles VI, he was a bit mad, because he thought he was made out of glass. So he had pieces of iron put in his clothes so nobody broke him. But he said, if we catch any English archers, we'll chop their fingers off. So all the English archers on the day of the battle taunted the French by waving the 2 fingers at them. That's a spanner, by the way. Okay? Now what you do is this. You put the foot on the string, that hooks over there, make sure your nut's in the right position, and then you push. Okay? No, missed it. There we are. And then your crossbow's loaded. Okay? That gives you a power advantage of 7 to 1. So I can load a 7 times heavier bow than that with this. And that's called a gaffle. There were different things. There were either goat's foots, cranachins, and English windlasses, which was basically a big pair of bicycle pedals, and you wound it up. But that's the most simple one of them all. And the other weapon of the time is the musket. That, I've been told, is the future. I don't think it'll ever catch on though. Yeah. A musketeer could shoot 2.5 in a minute. With a crossbow, I shot 4 in a minute, and as I said, David shot 17 with a longbow. So the crossbow and the musket were really inferior compared to the longbow. But I can train you to shoot a musket in a couple of hours, and you'll be as good as you're ever going to get. To be a good archer, you're going to have to practice every week. You know, you'd have to be 10 years practice before you even got anywhere close to being a medieval archer.